if we don't have something productive or purposeful to do, we'll find something to do. It just might not be the greatest thing. You know what I mean?
As you know, this episode is brought to you by Scene Studios, and we want to invite you to one of our challenges that we love to start the new year with. It is called the Booked It Challenge. It's only $28. It starts on February 5th. It's 4 weeks, everyone, and each week we go over specific strategy to help you get more auditions. Then we give you specific tactics to implement into your auditions to help your auditions stand out in a big way. And then we also bring in a casting director to look over auditions so we can learn from those industry pros. So everyone, this is an incredible challenge to help you grow in a big, big way and also really give you momentum to have the best acting year of your journey. So we can't wait to help you do that. You can also save $5 by using the promo code unscripted. So everyone, it's already $28. Make it even cheaper and more affordable than that. So be sure to sign up, everyone, for our Booked It Challenge starting on February 5th. Now enjoy the show. Welcome to Get Scene Unscripted. I'm your host, Jesse Malinowski. We are going to dive into acting insights, meet industry pros, and master the business. Don't forget to subscribe and share. We're keeping you behind the scenes and ahead of the game. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here and tuning in once again to Get Scene Unscripted, Get Scene Studios podcast. And today we are rocking with a very good friend and actually a team member of our Get Scene Mentorship program. So I'm really excited. And I don't even know if you remember this, but we met together as extras on a commercial and he's risen up to series regular status. I'm so excited to have Mahdi Cocci with me today. What's up, man?
What's up, man? I remember that very well.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. Because, and I think I told you it was like your name, or at least the Get Scene name, preceded you. So it's like I had heard of Jesse Malinowski, I had heard of Get Scene, but I wasn't familiar with either too well. I was training. I was actually doing some improv where you used to have your studios.
Over on Bishop Street.
Yeah. So it's like I knew what was up, but like I just hadn't put the name to the face and all that. And then I met you on that set, and I'm like, wow, I'm meeting like this famous cat. You know what I'm saying? Like, this dude's got the city on lock.
Oh,
but you were just super cool. We chopped it. It was only like a handful of extras on that commercial. So
I
we
feel
chopped
like
it up.
We were both on that, just like hoping to get upgraded because it was a union job. We were just like,
for me at the time, I was on that because like I needed the money.
You were
know
like,
what I mean?
yo, maybe I get upgraded, but I also need a few $100.
Because, well, for those who don't know, it's like extra work, union extra work, SAG jurisdiction commercial extra work pays fairly nicely. I mean, more than I could make driving Uber or whatever other hustles I'm doing. So I was very happy to get the job.
Yeah.
Again, you didn't need the money as much as I did, but I was happy to get the job, upgrade or not. I'm like, this is like $300 something for 8 hours. Like, that's good money, and I need that.
No,
so
for sure. At that time, I definitely was like, I'll take $300. I think it was like $333 or $336 at that time or something. Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, that's great money.
Right.
Again,
remember we were in the gym. We were just like lifting weights.
That's all. It
was awesome.
They had us working out in the background of like Nicole Ari Parker was like the star of the commercial.
Yeah, that's right.
Out,
that's right.
And it was like, and then we chopped it up, and then we met on another set.
You took which one? Sistas? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next time I ran into Jesse on set, we were both principals.
That's right.
And that was
true.
So we kind of like, we're on this path.
Moving on up. Moving on up. Well, I'm so glad you're here, man. Thank you for taking the time with me. And when we look at your credits, you got a lot of cool credits. You got She-Hulk, Terminal List, Walking Dead, obviously the TPS shows. I'd love to know which one of those really sticks out to you as like such an incredible experience that you just like really, really love, like a cool kind of story that we wouldn't know.
Well, okay, so it's impossible not to be partial to Bruh, and the show that made me not a broke actor anymore. The show that made me now like my resume a little more.
You're the famous one
reasonable. But it's hard not to be partial to that. But what I will say is that like, there's something to be said about that first one. And as much as, again, I love, so if you had to say favorite, I mean, bruh kind of gets the deal. But I was kicking around this as a wannabe actor for such a long time. I started, in 2005, I give you a little time.
Yeah, that's when I moved to New York.
That's when I moved to LA. And I was like, I'm going to try to be an actor. And fast forward 2017, and I moved to Atlanta with the grand total of 0 credits. So all that 12 years, I was just trying. I'd done some commercials and whatever, but it's like still didn't have an agent, I'd done a handful of auditions of things I didn't book. Just getting in the game, I paid tens of thousands of dollars on classes. So, moving to Atlanta, actually getting an agent was amazing enough for me. And then 6 months in, lo and behold, like the unthinkable happened, and I got that call, and it was like, you're the guy, and you're booked. And it was playing a cop on Dynasty. And, again,
that's a good first one.
I had a handful of lines, CW show at the time, but it was like, a couple lines, no big deal. But for me, it was such a big deal because you got to think 12 years in, and you're like, how much of this is a pipe dream where I'm just thinking I can do this? And how much is the industry going to respond and say, yeah, your pipe dream thoughts can kind of come to fruition. So getting that first one was so meaningful to me, as much as it was, co-star, couple, one day, couple of hours, couple lines, you know what I mean? Like it was, there was something in that said, okay, maybe I am not just beating my head against the wall for no reason. And that was great for me.
12 years. That's incredible. How did you stick with it? Like there had to have been times in those 12 years you're like, I got to be done with this. I got to stop this. Like what kept you going?
Well, partial stupidity, you know what I mean? Like I just, and when I say 12 years, it wasn't like, 12 years of like grind and doing all the right things. It was like 12 years of like, tricking off the whole situation, like not doing almost anything right. But that was the path that I needed. I obviously wasn't ready to like jump in and just do all these right steps. I didn't know what I was doing, and you don't know what you don't know. And I just kind of was figuring things out. And I think what made it, my buddy called it the golden handcuffs. Like, so I'd had a little bit of commercial success. I mean, some years, right? Some years dry, some years kind of nice commercially. And as we know, it's kind of nice to do one day on set and end up making 20, 30, 40, 50 grand off that one day, and you're like, wow. And that had happened to me.
I just say that makes up for all the other times, though, all the hours.
That's all it is.
You know what I mean? So everyone's like, oh my God, you made that in like one day? Like, no. There's 12 years
of like mad auditions that led to that one gig.
Yeah.
But once you know that it's kind of possible, then it's almost like, man, it's hard to go away from that. Or I should say, or like, and really what kept me going also was I knew I hadn't really given it a reasonable effort, because I'm like, I don't even have a freaking agent. So to walk away from the business now is kind of weird. It's like, I did a couple of commercials, a little modeling, but I haven't actually, been in the game for real, gone in audition rooms, had an agent, reading sides, like hadn't done that. So I was like, okay, let me at least get to the bare minimum point where I can say I gave it a shot. And then at that point, if I walk away, I guess that's what it is. But I was like, it's going to be nothing but regret if I walk away now, because I'm just not even in the game, So to not be in the game, I was like, this ain't it, man. I can't just dip set and say, whatever, I gave it a shot, because I couldn't in my heart feel like I really gave it a reasonable shot.
Yeah.
So I felt like I got to at least get to a point where I feel like I've given a reasonable effort at getting better at this, then started getting in the game, start auditioning, and then see what that brings. So, and in the 12 years, you do all kind of stuff to justify it and avoid facing things. But, eventually, I met someone who became a mentor to me and taught me about the opportunity in Atlanta. And I was desperate, and thirsty for knowledge. And I was like, that sounds good. Anything sounds good at this point. And
Right. Like anything else.
anything but running around LA with no agent, no much of anything, just like, trying.
Why do you think you didn't or like weren't able to get an agent in LA for all of those years?
I'll say like this. I feel that to me, there's almost like a mysticism surrounding the business in LA. And this is, it's my own opinion, but some people go to LA and they freaking thrive. But for me, that wasn't the case, obviously. And I didn't really know how to go about it. I mean, it was easy to find some classes. So I found classes. People told me like, try this class. I tried it and whatever. But to actually get representation, I didn't even really know how to do it, to be honest. And, once I kind of, and I was very insecure, and I felt like my work was embarrassment to myself, So I was embarrassed to go to class. I was skipping classes that I was paying for. That's how like weak-minded I was surrounding the work that I was doing.
Wow.
So I was definitely embarrassed, like, I don't want anyone else to see, especially someone who might have a hand in a professional career. Like, ooh, I got to get better. So I had this idea in my head that like, I got to get better before I can even put myself in the game. Then, I hadn't made the commitment. I did all kind of things to avoid. I relocated to New York for a little bit to do modeling, which is really just, again, avoidance tactic. But once I finally dedicated to training and I felt myself getting somewhat better, like, again, I wasn't great, but I was like, I'm not as much of an embarrassment. Then I started to try to get in the game, going to workshops, paying money, doing stuff, and like not getting a lot of traction. Got a couple of meetings I got called in for, and I was like, wow, that's a big win. And then in the meeting, the agent or the manager, I guess it was, I met with like one manager, one agent, I think, and it was like, they kind of just called me in to tell me like why I wasn't a good choice for them, Like, it was like, well, you're already like in your mid-30s and you don't have any credits, and guys in your category already got a lot of credits. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, that's my life. Like, I didn't really know what to say, but it didn't quite pan out, man. So, yeah.
You said that like you felt like an embarrassment, which is, I mean, I feel like that's like pretty harsh self-talk. How did you get beyond that?
I had to make the decision to like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go through the growing pains of getting better. Because at the time, it was like the growing pains of getting better were too great. So I avoided them. How do I avoid them? Skipping the classes that I'm paying money for that I didn't really have. Skipping them. I literally would just like not go to class. And it's like $50 a class. And I'm like just not going because I was like, I'm going to get critiqued harshly. I haven't, rehearsed it enough on my own time and, whatever, these things. And then, then I stopped going to class. Easy excuse. I'm out of money. Yeah. Can't afford it. Which, was I out of money? Yeah. But what's the first thing to go? The thing that's difficult and uncomfortable. So like another way to avoid things is like find a justification. I was a master at that. Money, can't do that. So,
wow, it's so crazy. I mean, you're so right. You're just saying like, it's like what we do, right? It's what we do as people. We're like, we put up these walls to prevent us from moving forward. And just like you said, it was all these different tactics that like you're doing against yourself.
And you don't realize it at the time because at the time it makes perfect sense. Here's what I told myself. Well, modeling is paying me. I'd already proven to myself, the marketplace had proven to me, somebody's willing to pay me real money to advertise their products or clothes or whatever. So I had done that. No one had ever proven to me, and I hadn't proven to myself that somebody's willing to pay me money to like tell their stories on camera. So then I said, okay, well, modeling's paying me. Acting is just costing me. I'm out of money. Let me lean into the modeling. Let me relocate to New York. But again, justification makes sense if you just break it down. But it's like, what was I doing? I was avoiding the difficulty of like leaning into something that I don't know. because this is comfortable. The comfort zone is like, well, modeling has shown me that somebody out there is willing to say, okay, we'll throw a couple bucks at you, do this. But acting is like, so yeah, the justification, like I said, it'll make sense in the moment. It makes the perfect sense to you. You're like, I'm so smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is such a great idea. Let me go to New York. Let me build my finances in the modeling world. Then I'll come back to acting. Procrastination and avoidance is really what it boils down to.
Wow. Yeah. So you finally, though, like you said, essentially is proven after booking some gigs, and then you finally get the series regular gig on Tyler Perry's Bruh. Talk about that experience. How did that shape you as an actor?
Man, I mean, that was, it was such a great experience. I mean, just even from the point of, going to getting flown to the callback in LA, it was like, wow, this is first for me, and, being in LA too, after I'd been in LA all those, I lived right up the street from where the callback was, but I wouldn't have been in that room if I still in LA. I'd just been in my apartment,
Yeah.
It's like relocating to Atlanta. Now I'm in this room feeling just excited about that. Then got to the point where, booked the show. Didn't even know what that meant financially. I didn't know what that meant, the magnitude of it really. I just was like happy to book anything, But then, then comes the secondary part. It's like, now it's work. Now you got to show and prove that like, hey, somebody gave you a shot. You want to take that and do something with it. So that was, and everybody knows, most people know Tyler Perry shoots very quickly, so now we have the idea of, well, I have a short period of time to ingest a lot of material, make it real to me and do my best in telling this story. So that was, the greatest thing about it is that all my castmates, phenomenal people, and just, we're all in the same boat essentially. Everyone had some work under their belt, but this was all of our biggest break to date for the most part. And nobody brought their egos. Everyone came in early. Like most of the other cast is from LA, and they came early to Atlanta, and on our own time, it's voluntary, it wasn't required, but we would all get together and just like work through the scripts and rehearse. And, we all were like, hey, because we shoot so fast, this is worth it to us to do that, and
be honest, how hard was it?
Season 1 was, to this day, still the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and it was harder than, any college courses for me. And when I was in the Navy, like that was, and it was quick, a few weeks, but it was, man, I was sleeping about 3 hours a night.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not saying that's what is required, but I felt like that's what was required for me at the time, because I was like, I need to put this kind of time in, or it's not gonna go so well for me. So if I gotta just, sacrifice a little sleep and adjust to where, again, you don't know, you don't have a process yet because it's first time up.
Right.
So, before it was always, hey, I booked something. Yes. And what did I book? Well, I booked the exact scene that I just prepared ad nauseum for the audition. So I kind of have that down, and I'm sitting in my trailer until they say, yo, Mahdi, come on. This time it's like the one scene that I had for my audition, we filmed that like day one, like within the first hour. Now there's just like hundreds and hundreds of other pages of stuff that I'm in that I haven't done for an audition. I haven't put on tape. I've just worked through it, on my own. So it's kind of a scary position when they hadn't done it, because you don't know exactly what you need.
Yeah.
So I was just like, and day one, I know we've talked about this before, but day one was rough for me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Day one was, man, oh man, I was like, I felt like I had my hair blown back. I was, okay, I knew my lines. I'd done that work, but I felt like I was just saying words. I was going through the motions, and day one was like the first 4 episodes, So I'm like, wow, this is going to be on TV, and this wasn't my best work. And it was tough, man. And I remember I talked to a castmate of mine who, we developed a real nice bond, and he was like, how'd the day one go for you? I was like, bro, I'm going to tell you the truth. It didn't go so well. And he was cool, and he was understanding and listening. He was like, dude, I feel the same way. He's like, don't even worry about it. He gave me some words of encouragement. And then I went home that night, and a good friend of mine who is kind of like my acting partner at the time, we always would tape auditions together. She came through, name is Josephine Roth, and she came through to my apartment and just worked for like 3 hours with me on the stuff I had to do the next day.
Wow.
And like just gave me her time, and like it was like I felt so deeply connected to the work after that, and like she really just came through. And then the next day I felt okay, like now I have a better grasp of what this is about, like what my job is here. And that's like, I got to do what I've been hired to do, which is tell this story, not get distracted by this whole experience of being on set and Tyler Perry. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's an awe-inspiring place. Like, you've been to Tyler Perry Studios, and you're like, wow, this is something special.
It is. It's crazy.
But like that, again, these are great things, but they can distract you from the moment of what you have to do. So it's a rude awakening, but it's great lessons. I don't have to learn that again.
Yes, sir.
I know that
sir.
now.
Well, speaking of Mr. TP, Tyler Perry, what is one of the most powerful things that you learned from him, working with him all those weeks?
Yeah. Man, that guy, because
that dude is brilliant.
He's brilliant, man. And people don't, I think, realize, he gets his credit, I would say, but the guy can really do anything.
It's insane. It really is.
It's, because obviously he's a, phenomenal actor. He does all the writing. He started to bring in writers now, but like he's done a ton of writing, he does directing, he does everything. And when I worked with him the first time, or when I did Sistas, it was so quick, I was like, whatever, you know what I mean? But when I worked with him on Bruh,
dude, I know, it's crazy. I filmed 3 episodes before lunch for Sistas.
Right, you're like, what? Like,
we're done? I'm like, all right, I guess I'll grab a sandwich and leave.
That's what I'm saying. So I didn't really, and he was directing from outside the room. So it's like we're hearing over the microphone. So like, it was weird that, but when I saw a little more, when I filmed season 1 of Bruh, then I was like, and I was an officer in the military, and I did 10 years. So I kind of have an understanding of that world. And in many ways, I can sort of make the comparison of Tyler Perry to some of the really good military leaders I've worked with, because one thing that they always emphasize is take care of your people. So as in any leadership position, it's like you take care of your people, they're going to take care of you. So as a leader, really, it's like servant leadership and steward leadership is something that I try to subscribe to. And I feel like that's very much the space that TP lives in. And he, because he takes, everybody there is so happy to be working for him. And everybody there wants to do a very good job for him. It's like beyond just like, I want to do a good job and represent myself. It's like people want to do a good job because they appreciate this leader who has like given them an opportunity, given all of us opportunities, and he runs a tight ship, not in the way that he's like a, tough guy so much, but it's like he understands the value of time, and he knows time is money, and he understands like, so he asks the right questions. He's not there to waste your time, and don't waste his, right?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
And that's what you start to see, and you're like, I just have such a respect for that, because besides just all of what he's accomplished, then when you see him in action, it just makes sense. You're like, yeah, this guy, he knows how to lead and motivate all of us as his people to like do the best we can and, get it done. And that's how I felt. And everyone around, from the, the grips to everyone, that's kind of, I felt like that was the sentiment. And there's an expression in the Navy, with the captain, so goes the ship. So he's the captain of that ship, and like everybody's kind of following his lead, basically.
That's awesome. I love that, because that is definitely something that I like really connect to. Like running Get Seen is like,
Exactly.
Really becoming and stepping into better leadership. You know what I mean? I love that. So can you elaborate on a little bit on how he was such kind of a good leader, This is mainly so I can steal it.
I mean, well, let's even look at, let's start, and I know it's been proven that like money isn't the greatest motivator. It's kind of, they've done studies and stuff like that, but you're in this industry just like I'm in this industry. And we've seen, I'm sure, some productions are funny with the money. And you're like, you're really going to nickel and dime me over this? Sometimes they're like, oh, okay, we signed you out at 10:15. And you're like, well, it's 10:15 now. I'm still like in like full makeup. I'm in my wardrobe. Like, can I get 15 minutes on the clock to go check? And things like that just start to, I don't know. I get a weird taste in my mouth when I see that kind of operation.
It like dings your morale.
Yeah. It's like how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're running this little like nickel and dimey production, like, and it's to be a big budget thing, right? And you're like, why are you guys doing that? Like, what are you doing? And that's one thing. Like, TB's never funny with the money. Like, not in my experience at least. And from other people, I've never heard that, right? It's not, you're not getting nickel and dimed with little things, right?
Yeah.
So that's great, right? He's compensating people. Then he does things to show his appreciation for the work and the workers who do it. Like I've seen him stop mid-production and like congratulate people or, wish people a happy birthday or commend people, like that praise in public moniker. Praise in public, condemn in private. That's another thing we learned in the military training. And it's like he'll do that. He'll big somebody up in front of everybody, round of applause, things like that. And it's good to see. You're like, wow, he cares, he pays attention, he remembers people, all that stuff. I just feel like, you feel like a valuable member. Everybody there, you feel like you're valued. He doesn't, from what I've seen, it's like he makes everybody feel like you're an important part of this team, and the team concept is strong there,
That's awesome. Yeah, that's incredible. When I think of you, I think of someone who is pretty ultra positive, has like such a good energy. That's one thing. And I don't think I've shared this with you, but like when we did that extra gig, however many years ago, I think I actually showed up on that set like a little aggravated because I was there as an extra, right? And I'm just like, I'm not supposed to be an extra. I'm supposed to be the principal. So I'm like aggravated, right? But I remember being around you, man. Seriously. I remember being around you and be like, man, this guy is just happy to be here. And like, I could be like him right now, or I can be like a grumpy asshole like I'm being right now. I should be more like this guy.
Yeah, and just I was just happy. I was like, yo, I can eat for a few months off of this money. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you saw my positivity was like, I'm finally getting paid. But yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. I think that.
But I'm like, where's that come from? Because like, I mean, if somebody on the outside looking in, you're 12 years into this. I don't know if you had gotten Dynasty at this point yet, but like,
I don't remember.
But all right, maybe.
But even then, I still would have done it. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. You're 12 years, 1 credit, maybe, or maybe 0 credits, and you're on set, still positive, still like, and spreading that really good energy, whether you knew it or not. Like, where's that come from, man?
Again, I appreciate you, acknowledging that. I think that, I'm happy to be doing this, even in the attempting phase, like this is something, this acting profession, this career, this art is something that I've wanted to do and I want to do. So, even being able to get some, levels. I don't want to act like I'm some just always positive guy, right? But again, like it helped that at the time I felt like, whatever it was, 368 over 8 hours is pretty good, you know what I mean? So I was happy to be getting that. Whereas like, maybe my attitude wouldn't have been the same if it was, 80 over 80 over 8 or so, you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, I was, I've done a lot of things to make money, right? I mean, I was in the Navy. I've done a lot of gigs. I've driven Uber. I've delivered food. I've worked in restaurants. I've done things that are just like, yo, can I make a couple of dollars doing this, hustles and whatnot, right? And, acting is still my favorite one. And the background is, it can definitely be humbling, as we know.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It can be very humbling, especially now in that commercial is an example where it wasn't as humbling because the only principal was a star. She's a name.
That
She's
is
a
true.
celebrity.
That is true. I couldn't have got that role.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I've been an extra on commercials that I auditioned for. It's a little tougher pill to swallow.
Yeah,
you're
that was
like,
tough.
I need this money. It's still SAG extra. But like, I'm looking at the dude who's like living the life that I want, and that's it's the ego is a funny thing. But I try to stay positive when I, you know what I mean? And, try to remind myself, but it's just the way I like to be. It just feels better to be like in a state that like, there's positivity, and again, get to meet a cat like you. And I'm like, oh, this dude's very cool. Yo, I heard of your thing. Yo, you got a good reputation around town, And to me, that was actually a pretty cool thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember who else was on set, but I remember you.
I don't know any. I think there were other people there, but I only remember you too.
Yeah, there was like, again, maybe 5, 6 extras, like not many.
No,
maybe even less, maybe like 4. But like I remember, like we were working out next to each other, and we started talking.
Yeah,
and then I realized who you were, and I was like, oh, I put the dots together, and I just felt like, wow, that's cool. This guy's out here doing his thing. So things like that, and I was still fairly new to the town, and I was just like happy to be integrated into an acting community somewhat.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you said, and I think this is like the key thing. You said I would rather be in a state of positivity, right? And I like you saying it like that because it's so important for people to realize that if you just bring awareness to your state, the state that you're in, that you actually have control over it. But the problem, I think, a lot of times is that actors or people, doesn't even matter who you are, what you do, you can get in this state of like, I'm not feeling that good. I'm in this funk, not realizing like I could just change my state. If I change my state, then all of a sudden I'm going to begin to feel better, and I'd rather feel better. And that might take a little work to change your state, but you got to put that effort in, and you will feel so much better.
Totally. And again, that's why we're blessed to be human beings. We have that ability. We have the ability. We can change our state at any moment. Like ourselves, we can do it. It ain't easy. You know what I mean? And I get it. The chemical imbalances, there's all kind of things that might get in the way of that, but it's still a choice, right?
Yes.
The way we respond to a thing is a choice. What's the book called? Jeez. It was written by a guy who was in the Holocaust. That's Viktor Frankl.
Uh-huh.
Viktor Frankl. I can't remember the name of the book right now. It's weird. I'm nervous. Little brain freeze. But
Hold on, you keep talking. I'll figure it out.
Thank you. There we go. So now I can look smart.
Yeah, here we go.
But Viktor Frankl wrote this book, and he's talking about the fact that we don't control our circumstances always. The only thing we have full and total control over is how we respond to it.
And then it's Man's Search for Meaning, right? Is it that one?
What else do you write?
Let's see, well, there's also Yes to Life, In Spite of Everything.
Man's Search for Meaning. That's it.
Yeah,
yes.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Yes. So
16 million copies sold, over 16. Yeah.
So it's like that's, we have control over how we respond, even in the worst of circumstances. You're thrown into prison, you're thrown into a concentration camp, but you can still make the most of that. You have the ability. I remember doing a tour of Alcatraz, and they said that the solitary there was like no windows, it was like pitch black.
Yeah, just concrete cubicles.
And they were like, guys would go literally nuts. And what some guys would do to kind of keep their sanity they would pop a button off of their prison blues and just like flick it around the room. It's completely pitch black. And you hear it tapping around. And then they would just search for it. It gave them something to do, right? So they chose, yeah, I'm in this circumstance, but I got to do something to like keep my mind in a place that like I have some purpose, just finding this button. And that's just like an extreme example, right? It's like we're obviously blessed, even if we're, you know, to the point where like I need this extra gig to even make my rent, right? But we're free people, relatively speaking. You know, like we have our capacities to do things, and
it's getting in that gratitude. It's getting in that gratitude. Exactly. But I love that story about the like them going after the buttons and having that purpose, because it just makes me think of like, well, what does that look like in like a normal society type of thing? And I just imagine it's just like people just scrolling Instagram, of just like not doing anything, having no purpose, right? And like that's why depression is so high. Is like so often you don't have purpose. You're not able to like get out that artistic outlet because you're just looking at everyone else as opposed to you having some sort of purpose, you taking action, you doing things.
Yeah. And you know, it's kind of been proven that we crave that.
Yes.
As much as we might think we crave just a chance to be lazy, it's like, it's not true.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
Like
you're
we
so
want
right.
something to do. And that's why they say like idle minds or devil's playground or whatever, because if we don't have something productive or purposeful to do, we'll find something to do. It just might not be the greatest thing. You know what I mean? Like we'll spend our time, you know, diving into something that might be to our detriment, but we're going to like, we need to be doing things, scrolling, feeling polarized with all this, you know, hot button items that are thrown our way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want something to give us some type of meaning. I'm a human in the world. I think things, I feel things. So.
You gotta go over it, go after it, and you gotta take action. No, I love that. Hey, if you're an actor and you're enjoying this episode, we want to serve your acting journey in a bigger way. So we want to let you know that we offer a free class every single month. We do it on a lot of different things, but most importantly, we make sure that it is so value-packed that you have no idea how it's actually for free. But it's our gift to you to know that we are so passionate to help actors on their journey, and more specifically, help you on your journey. So you'll find a link in the description. All you gotta do is put in your email and we will send you our next upcoming free class so you can get so much value. So do not miss out on that. Again, you'll find the link in the description. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Going kind of back to your journey, we had Jason Lockhart on the podcast as well, and he's your agent. I'd love to know your relationship with him and how he's maybe inspired or kind of changed the trajectory of your career.
Man, Jason is like, it's such a phenomenal dude, man. I just, every once in a while in life you get lucky. That's what I say, man. And I had been
every once in a while. I think a lot of times you get lucky. You just gotta fight. You just gotta see the moments.
Right. I stand corrected. But I'd been modeling. I hadn't been in the acting game, but I've been modeling for a while. So I've dealt with different agents, like representatives, right? And it's always kind of tough because you don't know what's going on when you're not there. You kind of want to hope that they got your best interest in mind and they're really hustling for you, but you don't know. And when you're not working, you really don't know. You're like, hello, they remember me. You feel weird. So all we really have is that warm, fuzzy feeling of faith that like this agent is good for me. But we don't quite know exactly. And I've had this, the conundrum of this, like, am I with the right fit? This kind of awkward feeling. And when I first moved to Atlanta, I got with AMT, grateful. Jason wasn't even there yet, but I was just grateful, somebody wanted, and it was actually the owner of the agency, Sarah, was like in the meeting with me. She was like, showing me love, like, hey, I want to rep you. I was like, wow, this feels great.
And Sarah's got that awesome energy.
Man, yeah, she made me feel like wow, dude, you want me? Like,
Yeah, oh,
So
yeah.
that was great. And then maybe within a month of being with the agency, the head agent leaves, like different career. I'm like, okay. So then it was, okay, cool. Well, there's, like the secondary agent became kind of like the head agent. And then like, I felt like seriously, like a couple weeks later, she leaves. So now I'm
You're
like,
this
is it me? I just got to this town. I finally got an agent first time in my life, and now both the agents have left the building. Like, I don't have an agent. So I felt weird. Now I'm like, did I make the wrong choice? You second guess, like, should I still be in LA? At least I could be auditioning for commercials. I don't know. What am I doing out here? And then Jason came aboard. I didn't know him. I didn't know who he was at the time, but it's like, hey, they brought this new agent in from LA. And, this is the guy. They had an event for him, like a welcome event for him at this restaurant place. And
That either had to have been like a nightmare for him, or he had to like felt like the man, because like everyone is like, yeah, it's so great to meet you. So like I gotta ask him, was it great?
I wonder how it felt for him. Yeah,
Yeah, was it great or terrible?
Because he had just come in town, you know what I mean? And I still had 0 credits. So I was like nobody on that roster. But I was, again, I had nothing else to do. So I'm going to all the events that were like agency events, because I didn't even have any friends in town. I was just like, cool, So, I came and I met him, and he seemed mad cool. Again, I met him briefly. There was so many actors there, and they all want a minute of his time, as you can expect. And they all have more right to him because they got credits. I'm just, I'm just a guy on the roster.
But you know what? You made that shit up in your head.
Of course.
You made that up in your head.
Yeah, I made myself small. I don't want to take too, I don't bother him. Yeah, he's busy.
Yeah.
So, but it's true, right? So I didn't want to, but he said what's up to him. But then he did this thing where he met with every actor. Just a quick 15-minute meeting in his office, one-on-one. So when my meeting came up, I remember he just kept saying, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, no, he was kind of looking at me, and he's like, no, I really think you can work here. He's like, we just got to get you some industry, or he goes, we just got to get you some network approval. And I was like, yeah, that. What's that? What's network approval?
Yeah, that.
I had no idea what that was, but like, he made it sound good. And I was like, yeah.
Let's get that.
What is that? And he goes, that means a network has to approve you before you get on their shows. So if you get an audition for this show that's on HBO, for example, you got to get approved by the network. Once you get approved by the network, then you're booked. He was like, the next time around an HBO show comes, they can see you've already had network approval. So it becomes more of an easier choice to book you. Because nobody wants to be the senior guy to make a decision that like is the wild card decision. Because if I say, hey, Jesse's the guy, and nobody knows who Jesse Malinowski is, now it comes back on me like, Mahdi? Because they'll see you get on set and you freeze up, you know what I mean? Or you just, make a bad look. So somebody got to take a chance. So he's like, we got to get your network approval, and then you get in the game. I was like, okay, cool. Sounds good. You know what I mean? Like I just was happy because I felt like he had a belief in me, and he kind of had a mindset of a plan, and that felt good. And I remember I asked him, I was like, hey man, like, do you have an example of any booking tapes? Like, because I've been sending all these tapes and I hear nothing. So I'm trying to do a decent job. Like, I don't know. He goes, huh. He goes, I've met over 100 actors already, and you're the first one who's asked me that. He's like, these actors came into this office and they want to know like what I can do for them. And he's like, you actually want to like see something so you can try to like improve. He's like, yeah. He's like, let's see. He's like, we got to get the actor's approval or whatever. But like, he hollered next door to Kelly. He's like, Kelly, can we get a tape from Mahdi? And like, you know what I mean? And he remembered that. He was like, it kind of struck him. And I'm going to tell the truth. This is my mentor. My mentor, Jimmy Gonzalez, told me to ask him that. He goes, ask him if he has like a copy. You can see a copy of a booking tape, somebody at your agency.
And I know Jimmy. Jimmy's booking.
Jimmy's booking.
Jimmy's like, I can show you my tapes. This is what a booking tape looks like, but go try to see more.
That's the thing. So Jimmy gave me that advice, and I followed it. And it was funny how it struck Jason. Jason was like, wow, yeah. And then I still had 0 credits. And then, eventually I booked Dynasty. And then I booked, I think it was like The Resident. And like 2 weeks later, I booked The Gifted. So it's like 6 months in, I got my first credit. 6 months later, I got my second credit. And like 2 weeks after that, I got my third. So I just booked like 2 in a row in a 2-week span. One of them was like recurring. So I met with Jason again, and it had been about a year since he first came on board. And he remembered that. He goes, I remember a year ago when you sat right here in my office and we said, we got to get your network approval when you asked for a booking tape. And he's like, and look at this. And the Gifted and the Resonant are on the same network. They were both on Fox. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, look at what the freak is going on.
That's
it
crazy.
was like, it was very dope. And again, I was still just, you know, lower man on the totem pole as far as like just booking a couple gigs. But Jason never made me feel that way. He always made me feel like a guy who you know, and AMT in general, man, like I never felt like a nobody there. You know what I'm saying? Like even when I had 0 credits, it was like, I felt like I'm the only actor on the roster. Like they showed me such love and concern. And again, I'm not trying to waste their time. You know what I mean? I'm not calling them up to tell them, you know, I freaking got a hangnail. But it's like they always gave me the time that I felt like if I needed something, they were always they're always quick. And you know, and again, Jason has proven to me like we've had some situations where I've had like kind of, you know, funny stuff with productions and all kinds of stuff, and he's always had my back. He's always had my back 100%. Like, not like, Mahdi, we want to do a production. He's like, whatever you want. I'm behind you 100%. If we lose a job, we lose a job. Like, I'm going to do whatever it is that you want to do. And like, that's big, you know, because I've heard all kind of stories from the industry. And like, thankfully, that's not my experience. Like, I have, you know, Jason Lockhart and Madison Janode and Kelly. Like, the team is on my side, and that's a great feeling, you know. And again, everyone doesn't have that. So for those who don't, I hope one day you will, you know. But like, you got to work with what you work. I mean, I've had tons of agents in the modeling world that like didn't really feel like we're on my side. But hey, book some jobs, get a new agent. It's part of the process too.
It is, and I think it has so much to do with the relationship that you build with your agent, right? Like for you, it's Jason, right? And for a listener that's maybe trying to find another agent or find their first agent or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean it's also got to be Jason because this sounds great. Like it's the relationship that you build
Totally
with
whichever
that person.
Yeah, whatever, you know, if they're riding for you, then that's congratulations, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned Jimmy being your mentor. And that he was like, make sure to ask this, right? And that actually like ended up circling back a year later, right? I feel like that's so powerful, having that mentor, having someone that's been there, that's gone through it to be able to help you, guide you.
Totally.
And we do that here at Get Seen with our mentorship program, and we were one of our mentor coaches. How has that been for you? Being, I mean, kind of full circle, right?
Yeah.
Like you had that mentor, and I think everybody should have a mentor because you just move forward faster.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so how's it been for you mentoring actors and just like it was given to you now being able to give back?
It's really a great feeling. I mean, and here's the thing, I've seen the progression for myself because when I first moved here on Jimmy's recommendation and guidance and all that, I was still very insecure with my work. Again, I'd been training now in a way that I believed in, so I felt like it's getting better, but I was also no credits, finally got an agency, finally getting some auditions, and I really felt like, you know, because I'm working with actors for taping auditions and stuff. So I felt like if I'm working with actors, I got to work with actors who are more advanced than I am. They have to be, because I felt like, you know, the analogy I use is if I'm in the ocean and I'm drowning and, you know, I got a little piece of styrofoam like this big, I might be able to hold on to that and like keep my head out of water. But if you grab onto that too, we both gonna sink. And that's what I felt like. I had like a little piece of like life preserver, and I need, you know what I mean? I need people that got boats who can like help pull me along. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember even like certain actors that would like, I'd meet, you know, new actors, or I mean, they were new to me, like new people I met and they were actors. And I'm like, oh, snap, maybe I can start working with this person, taping or whatnot. And then I would see their work and I would be scared. And that's not even a knock to say their work was bad so much. It was just like, I felt like if it's not well advanced from where I'm working, it's blind leading the blind. I felt like and again, I felt this time sensitivity is also, I was like, I need someone to help pull me from this ravine that I've been in my whole life. And, working actors or, people who've booked, people who training longer than all this stuff. And again, when I saw actors who were like, they're maybe working at my level, I was like, oh no, I can't. I just don't have the capacity to work with someone at my level.
Get off my styrofoam.
Yeah.
Get off.
Yeah. And then it was weird. It happened organically where like I started to feel more solid in my own work after I, booked a few gigs and got a little bit, okay, now I kind of starting to understand certain things about this. And then I started to feel like, oh, now I have something to offer. Because just organically, I was able to work with actors who weren't as far along as I, and I feel like I can offer them insights. You know what I mean? And that was an early realization. This is even pre like series regular. This was just like, I had booked a few gigs, and it's now, and that's the thing. So now like with the mentorship, it's like just see and understanding how that helped me, because I was hungry for information and Jimmy was generous with information, and he shared it with me. And I was like, whatever, let me throw my ego aside, swallow my pride, and just, I'm gonna do whatever you tell me, basically. Cause like, I need to get where you are and I'm gonna do that. You know what I mean? And then and that helped me so, it's invaluable how much I was able to advance and how quickly compared to like the 12 years prior to that when I was just feeling my way in the dark.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that. Like 12 years and then finding the mentor and then all of a sudden.
I met Jimmy in early 2017. And the first thing he told me, and the only reason I met him was because I taped him because he had just moved to LA. He didn't know anybody. We had a mutual friend in my acting class in LA. And she was like, hey, like my friend just moved here, has a great resume. He needs people to tape with. So I was like, yeah, sure, you can get my number. Absolutely, I'll tape him, you know what I mean? And he was, super cool dude. And I could see, wow, this guy's it was kind of cool for me just to be able to tape someone doing a real audition for like real something on TV. I was too busy doing classes, But he was just telling me he had built all these credits in the Southeast, splitting time between New Orleans and Atlanta.
Yeah.
My, eyebrows kind of perked. I'm like, tell me more. He was like, yeah, man, if you ever want to know about the Southeast, like, he gave me that green light. Like I could holler at him. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of interested, I didn't know if I was going to move. I just was like, I like to hear it. And then, yeah, a few months later, I decided to make a move. And actually, a buddy of mine, he lost his mom who lived out here. So I came to a funeral and that kind of in this area. And that kind of like was a catalyst. I was like, hey man, I'm going to Atlanta anyways, putting flight on my credit card, money I don't have. Like, do you think you can maybe set me up, meet with your agent? Do you think maybe whatever, you know what I mean? And it was like, that was the start of that process. And then I ended up just deciding to move here. And then, he was like, yelling at me, teaching me auditions and all that. So then seeing all that, right, that was my learning journey. So you go from beginning of 2017, met him, December 2017, booked my first credit.
That's crazy.
May, June 2017, got my first agent. So you're like 6 months, you know what I mean? And that was 12 years prior to that, no mentor, no progress, So now, on the flip side of that coin, it's like I understand the value and I appreciate the ability to have some insight to share with actors who are hungry for knowledge the same way I was. Because it's like, we just want to freaking know, but like, it's not always easy. And there's more ways than one to skin the cat. So there's a lot of information out there. You don't know what works. It's almost overwhelming. So that's why for me, streamline it. I'm just gonna listen to this guy. You know what I mean? Listen to this guy. And that helped me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he knows everything, he knows a lot, but
He knows a lot. Yeah.
but everything he told me, I followed it, and like I have a career now. I had nothing. So
it's crazy.
So to be able to kind of try to do the same thing, pay it forward. It's like, hey, I got some information to share. I don't know everything, but I can share what helped me get to a point. So hopefully it can help you.
Yeah. How has it been for you? I know for me, I just absolutely love the opportunity to be able to give back. And I feel like this keeps coming up too, like even back to like talking about Tyler Perry and like and serving, like as a leader and stuff like that. But how has the mentorship affected your actor journey? Because then you can serve others at the same time.
I've always said it's kind of like teaching is the next level learning. So, and it's funny, I was just talking to an actress yesterday, 2 days ago, and it was like an enlightening moment. And I was just like, everything I'm telling you, I'm really just telling myself.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's like I'm everything I'm telling you, teaching you, whatever you want to call it, it's like I'm just reminding myself. So it's like I'm not here and you're here. It's like I've made some steps in this industry that maybe you've yet to make, so I can share with you things that have helped me. But it's like we're still like the same. We're still just like trying to get better, trying to tell these stories in a way that's more real, closer to our hearts, and like, keep doing more of it, So like the things that I'm saying, it's like, it's just a reminder to me. It's not like me telling you. It's like I'm sharing this and like constantly it's the reminder to myself. It's like, yeah, that's what we need to be doing to like further this whole deal.
Dude, I totally went through that too. And so many of the other mentor coaches, I think every single one has said that. Like after I'm doing a check-in or it's like, how's everything going? How's the actor that you're working with or whatever? I feel like every single time it comes up, like, yo, this is a good reminder for me to be doing this stuff too. Like I also need to be doing this. Yeah. And so I think it also just proves that the formula that we teach works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, because you realize like, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but why reinvent the wheel every time? If you can go with what's proven. Hey, this is what worked for Jimmy. Jimmy built his career where? In Atlanta. Okay, well, some people build a career in LA. So I could have said, well, but I was like, I've been in LA. I don't have a career. So I'm going to follow that. It's already laid out. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got a formula. It's already laid out. Right. So why not do that?
Exactly.
If it's proven. We can take some of the guesswork out of this, again, the mysticism of building this career and just like, hey, do what works, what's already been proven to work. And again, if that doesn't work, maybe you adjust that. But like, let's go for what we know to begin. So yeah, the formula is, I like it. I like the ability to follow a formula. And then you can adjust off that, but don't just like start arbitrarily. So that's good.
So I think we have arrived to our spotlight sign off. It's 5 questions that we'll go ahead and wrap up with. And so the first one is, what is something that you're incredibly grateful for today?
Wow.
Remember, we got to stay in gratitude. So yeah, I got to remind all the guests.
That's great. I mean, I'm incredibly grateful for the relationships in my life, both familial, platonic, romantic. Like I'm very grateful for the people that I have in my life.
I love that. Question 2, what is a book, and we talked about a book already, but a book, TV show, movie, or event that seriously changed your life?
Well, I'm going to say there's a book by Ryan Holiday called Ego is the Enemy. And I remember that. Matter of fact, Jimmy recommended that book to me. And it just really struck me. And it's like at the time, I had just booked my first series regular. So I'm like feeling myself, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I remember I just really appreciated the perspective that it gave me. And I remember then I shared a copy of that book with like people close to me, including like our agents and like some like for all my castmates. I gave, you know, I gifted them copies of books because it really did kind of, I felt like that perspective, especially when like your ego can kind of get away from you. You're like, hey man, I just been beating my head against the wall. And now I'm kind of I'm okay now.
Yeah.
Which is good. But to keep in perspective, we don't want it to get to where it is the enemy.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, that book, I highly recommend that. It's a pretty easy read, but it's solid.
Yeah, that's a good one. What's something in your daily routine that you really cherish?
I would say, and this is like what I learned from training in LA, actually through the Imagine Life. But I like to start in the morning, do creation work, like work on my imagination. So minimum of 1 hour a day to create circumstances, whether it's surrounding a script that I'm currently working on or sides, or sometimes I'll just, create circumstances like the visualization of the life that I want. But either way, it's flexing the muscle of imagination, which I think is our greatest tool in this work. And hey, sometimes I'm not as honest with it, and I can tell when I haven't been doing it daily,
Yeah.
the rustiness. You know what I mean? I can tell I'm not as sharp. I get some sides and I'm like, I'm not as sharp. But when I'm in my daily practice, it's like, that muscle is flexed and I'm ready to create these circumstances and make these words on a page a world and make that real to me. So very grateful for, again, the ability to create daily.
Damn, that's good. I like that a lot. Fourth question, what is something that you're currently working on or trying to improve in your life?
Wow. For me, the constant answer to that is vulnerability. I just feel like the greater I'm in touch and in tune with my own personal vulnerability, it's going to serve me. And it's not just as an actor, obviously as an actor, but in life, in the relationships that I already talked about. It's like there's, to allow people in. And I remember I had a teacher tell me once, Mahdi, exactly what you're trying to hide from us being the audience, is exactly what people are willing to pay to see. And that sentence reveals itself more and more to me every day. Like at the time, I thought I knew what she meant. This was like 10 years ago, probably, and like now I kind of think, okay, maybe I'm understanding more. And like 10 years from now, I'll probably understand more what she even meant. You know what I mean? It's just like, this protection. I've developed it over time. I've spent a lifetime developing the protection. So now it's like allowing people in to open up. That's what I'm constantly working on.
That's powerful. I love that. Based on your life right now, what is one piece of advice you want all the listeners to make sure to get?
Man, I mean, well, let's go back to the common theme that seems like what we were talking about. It's like have the ability to listen to those who have walked where you've walked, or walk where you want to walk.
Yes.
And our ego can get in the way, our pride. We're artists, we're sensitive. We don't want to sometimes hear this critique. We don't want to, but letting go of that and edifying somebody who has something to offer me and not being resistant to it has served me. So I like to remind everybody, and this is always, and it's going to continue to happen in my life and everybody's life. It's like, and we probably learned also our folks, right? We're all teenagers and your parents tell you something. Don't hang out with those kids. Oh, mom.
Yeah.
Now those same kids is like doing life in prison and you're like, oh, she kind of knew something back then. You know what I mean? Like, but this is what happens. We think we know, but just listen to people who know maybe more. And you don't got to do everything they tell you, but take heed to their advice.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Mahdi Cocci, thank you so much, man. It was awesome chatting with you.
Jesse, thanks for having me, bro. This is always, man. This is a good time.
Always solid getting together with you. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. If you liked this episode, please share it with somebody that you think needs to hear it. There was a lot of awesome gems and mic drop moments, I think. So share it with somebody that you think can also be served by hearing it. And I just want to thank you all that have left a review. If you haven't left a review, please do so, or comment. It's been so great being able to hear from so many of you, so we appreciate you so much. So everyone, we'll see you on the next one. Mahdi, thanks again, man.
Thank you, bro.